Welcome back to Unmute Yourself. I'm your host, Jennifer Carter, and this podcast is about lifting the curtain on leadership, purpose, and the real stories behind women who dared to do things differently. We'll talk about how they found their path, the struggles along the way, and how they built something that truly matters. Now, these are normal people doing extraordinary things because I want you to know you are extraordinary too. And today's guest is Wendy Vigdor-Hess, a holistic health practitioner and coach whose work blends nutrition, embodiment practices, coaching, and shamanic traditions, which I'm so excited to hear about, by the way, to help people reconnect with their bodies and their energy. And her approach is rooted in the belief that healing and transformation don't just happen in one dimension. They happen physically, emotionally, mentally, and energetically. So Wendy helps people step back into alignment with themselves, their health, and their purpose in a deeper way. Wendy, I am so excited to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for
Yay,
having me.
Yes, it's been a long time coming. I think we met each other, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, maybe?
Yeah, it feels like a while ago. Yeah.
Well, y'all, I'm so glad to have this convo. So let's just start at the beginning. So your work blends a lot of different disciplines, right? Nutrition and coaching, even shamanic practices. So how did this path even start for you?
Good question. Yeah, it really has started and it's been evolving the whole time through my own journey. Honestly, it's really like years ago, I was interested in working with my own health and became interested in more holistic practices and dabbled in it and started to just explore. And one thing kind of led to another. And so it's sort of blurry how it even started in terms of initially it started with training. I was stressed out. I was living in New York City. I was working in a completely different field, started working out and met when I worked a night shift and met people through that because I became a personal trainer and met people. And there were people on the path who were super interesting to me. And it got me interested. There was a woman who used to come in with MS and she used to come in with her nurse. And it got me interested in kind of exploring deeper with other things with the body. And just so then I continued with personal training, but continued and then got interested in nutrition and decided to go to school for more schooling for that as well. And then I knew always when I was in school, I went to Bastyr, which is a naturopathic school. So even though I was doing for nutrition, I always knew that I was interested in more holistic approach. So I started adding other modalities and I added Reiki as energy and then I added other energetic understanding. And I was always intuitive from a very young age, but all of this was sort of happening at the same time that I hadn't necessarily realized that other people didn't necessarily see things the same way or recognize them in the same way. And so it just became more of a learning as I was developing myself and becoming more of who I was and who I am. And that's always evolving. I mean, we're always wherever we are and we're always continuing to grow and evolve, but that's how it happened. And it also led into more of the shamanic practices and then nature-based healing and just connecting with people and energies and nature in different ways. So that's sort of a broad yet
Yeah.
some specifics.
So it sounds like you just followed your passions and what you were completely interested in, and it led you to continuous learning. And now you've rolled all of that into
Mhm.
practice. So what does that look like?
Well, it can look different for each person, which is why one of the reasons why I love it, because I feel like, just like you said in the intro, we're all made up of so many different facets within our own self. Like we are so much. And yet we sometimes see ourselves in certain ways. And what I love about how I've put things together is that it can offer so many different things to different people. So some people still find me and they just want nutrition or they just want, but then once we meet and they're starting to recognize the different ways in which they walk through the world, they can see how all the different pieces work within their own quote puzzle within themselves. So it's very organic in how it all comes together because each person is individual. And so when I'm working with someone, there's not necessarily, well, we always do this, or this is how a session always goes, which for some people can be off putting initially because they want to know. Our brains want to know. We want, well, what is this? But what is consistent is what people get in terms of or receive is more and more of themselves and more joy, more happiness, more contentment, more peace, more of a way of walking through the world with themselves intact, loving themselves more, loving all parts of themselves more, and really embodying all of those what seem like separate pieces, but are all part of what makes up each person. And that looks different for everybody. So feel free to ask more questions because it's a little bit,
Yeah. Well
yeah.
well, like, what kind of challenges do people usually come to you with? Like, if somebody's listening and they're like, "What does she do? How can she help me?" So
Yeah.
what are some of the common things that you see?
Well, I see a lot of people who are working on they're on a holistic or a spiritual path. Most people that they sort of understand different pieces of it, or they've been trying to eat better, they've been trying to eat healthier foods, less chemicals, less more close to the earth, whether they're meat eaters or plant eaters or however they choose to eat, but they're more with less kind of extraneous things. So they might still be having digestive issues. They may still be in a time of great transition within their life. So things are changing. What used to work may not be working anymore for whatever those goals may be for a person. It could be losing weight. It could be digestively. I never used to have a problem with my digestion. Now I do. It could be more with patterns and things that they recognize within themselves. They may become more pronounced with their relationships in how they interact with people, friends coming and going, and things that seem kind of sure footed, maybe shifting a little bit or a lot. Things with their family also may be happening. So I see many people they just feel like they don't fit in. They feel like they're not enough. They feel like their family dynamic they were sort of the quote black sheep, or they also just in their circles may not necessarily feel like they think the same way or do things the same way as others. Like they have some quirky, which I feel like we all have quirky, but they may experience themselves differently with the quirky. So they may be kind of in a comparing and they feel like everyone's better than them, or they're not liked, or again, they're not good enough, or and they also may have issues. They want to take better care of themselves and they've tried, but they feel like they're always taking care of other people. They may have a lot of people in their life that they are taking care of, whether it's caregivers to parents or within their family dynamic or in their relationships with friends or partners or spouses or even just pets, even if so and they may feel really stressed and anxious about all of that, but they're not necessarily sure how to they may have done a lot of different things, that they so sometimes people are newer and they're like, I'm at a lot, I don't know what's going on. Sometimes people have tried a lot of different things, like eating different, like meditating, like walking, like exercising, like all these different things, but it's quote not working. So there might be blocks there and they can't necessarily see them, or they don't know what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
So a lot of, it can be a lot of criticism, self-criticism as well.
It sounds like you really look at the whole person,
Mhm. Yeah.
physical health, spiritual health, mental, emotional. And there's something that I don't know that I have a really strong understanding about,
Mhm.
and that's you talked about shamanic traditions.
Yeah.
So how would you describe that work in a practical way?
Question. So I've done a lot of different ways of working with it, but the easiest way that I think it's like a map. So when we're going somewhere and we travel, and I mean, now we have our GPS or we have our, what's on the phone, but you still see the pathway of getting from point A to point B. And what the shamanic traditions, a it's like an overlay. It's a way of recognizing ourselves through nature and through natural ways that we walk through the world. So whether you live in a climate that has seasons or you don't, you're still aware of seasons. So our bodies work within seasons. So if you are in a climate that changes, you might like warm foods when it's cold out. You might like cool foods when it's hot out. Our bodies are constantly changing. And so when we're looking at the shamanic traditions, it sort of guides us in a way that we can work within those realms. We can work within those directions, if you will, to help to focus our attention at a particular time. So even though we are living within all of it at the same time, so when you're driving somewhere, just because you're going from point A to point B doesn't mean there's all these states and countries and places all around you all the time. You're just not focused on those places. And so when we're looking at a map and using the shamanic traditions, when we talk about directions, for instance, there are animals or there are placeholders, if you will, that fall within each of those areas that represent and help to represent what may be shifting in a particular area of your life in that time. So I'm going to pause there and just see if anything else, like if you have any other questions related to that, or if that makes sense, or if that simplifies it a bit, or
It's
not
so
sure.
interesting to me. I don't know. I don't know what I thought shamanic work was, but it wasn't that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but it's so interesting.
Yeah. It's really interesting. And there are a lot of, I mean, I'm giving you a broad, there are a lot of other specifics too, but the way I work with it is very much, it's very much in our daily lives. So it's not that I don't tune in different ways or connect with it, but I feel like bringing it back to what we are living in a daily way is, I feel, the most it's just the easiest way to work with it, because it helps us to stay with ourselves. And we're taught so much in our culture to look outside of ourselves. And so we can look to, this kind of thing to fix this problem, or that kind of thing, or we're wanting to, if you will, take a pill or do this to, then come back whole. And the way I work with the shamanic systems is really that we already are whole. We already have everything that we need. It's just a way that we can kind of help focus or bring it in, but also to bring it more internally within ourselves, because nature is something that we're surrounded with all the time. Even if we are not nature loving people and we live in a city and we don't go, you still are surrounded by things in nature and the natural world. We eat from nature. And again, whether plants, meat, whatever, like everything. And so it's a way to connect us that we are always connected. And it reminds us, and it's like a reflection in a mirror, that we're always connected with ourselves when we choose to be. When we don't abandon ourselves, when we stay with what our process is. And it's a way to help us do that in a very loving and intentional way, where we can see ourselves through a different lens that can sometimes help to temper the way we may be seeing ourselves without having that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And how were you always this confident going down this path? I know you said you started with like physical training and the nutrition, and now here you are. Like, did you know this is what you were going to end up
No.
doing in some way, shape, or form?
No, no. I mean, I always knew that I wanted to help people. But when I first started, like when I went to school and college, I was business and then marketing. And I went through Macy's training program. I was like in retail and then went into the wholesale world. Like I was doing completely different work. I always was sort of a natural, like people had an easy time talking with me. Like I always loved connecting with people, like just natural. Like I like doing that. I love learning about people. I love hearing their stories. But I had no idea. Has it been easy? No, it has not been easy. And I feel like that has fueled passion to help others because I want to help make it easier for others through the lessons I've learned and through, ways that it can kind of curtail the process a little bit. Because sometimes when we, talk a lot, or we feel like we're making progress because we're, talking about our issues, or we're working through it or whatever. And that is true. And there's also a way that sometimes more can happen in these kind of liminal spaces, or in the quieter spaces. So like for people who may be listening who meditate, it's like when you're getting to that point and you have a mind racing, which we all do, and now more than ever. But when you get to that point, like when you're before sleep or when you first wake up and you're sort of in that like lower pace, or maybe you don't, not you, but maybe someone feels that more when they're just on vacation, or when you're riding a bike, or when you're exercising. Like those are when it's like things can short circuit in a good way. Like when you're in the shower and you think of the ideas, or those are like ways that we can tap in, and more can kind of be happening behind the scenes that make it easier. And so when we get out of the way, and so part of the reason why, I mean, I think everyone comes in with, do you have an easy path, hard path? But as human beings, none of us have it easy. Like we're here to learn, we're here to grow, we're here to become our best selves and rid ourselves of things that no longer work. So, and that our soul is not speaking. And so the easy or hard, it can be easeful going through the harder chapters of our lives. And that is what with my journey, I would love to share more of that so that it can be more joyful to go through the crappy
Right.
stuff we sometimes have to go through as
Right.
human beings. So, yeah, but it's super important. Like and confidence, going back to your question too. I mean, confidence was always something that I have struggled with because I always felt like I was not good enough, or I was weird, or I wasn't doing it like so like the stuff that, what I speak about and the compare, all those things, it's like I've lived those things. So it's not, I feel like the confidence comes through the moving through it, and through the actual actions of you recognize, but then taking different actions, we become more resilient and stronger. And just like lifting a weight, you're not going to lift 20 pounds initially. You're going to start small, and you're going to stay consistent, and you're going to build up to that. So in all different ways that we make changes in our life, we can start small, but then it's like it keeps making it bigger, that we all of a sudden certain changes don't seem as hard anymore.
Yeah, it's absolutely building that muscle, because
Yeah.
once you've taken that first small step that seems so completely scary, the next step is a little bit easier. And
Yeah.
I love to listen to you, because I think people, they want to control an outcome, and then, I talk a lot about with my clients white knuckling it,
Yeah.
and I have to do more and I have to do more, and there's zero time for quiet or reflection. And it's just so highly productive. And that little programming, even I see a lot of intergenerational programming, like what my mother told me, and then her mother, and this is what we do, and this is how I show up.
Mhm.
I think you and I come at it, we work with people on the same issue in different ways. So it's so fun to hear it. So, what do you see? I'm curious, from an intergenerational perspective, if anything.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot. And actually I've started teaching some little classes monthly. I have one coming up just because it's pertinent, but it's working with the mother, because we're getting in between the mother, like Mother Earth and Earth Day, which I personally think is like every day Earth Day, but and then Mother's Day. And then yeah. So I feel though that it's very pertinent. And it's also very pertinent for I tend to see a lot of sensitive or empathic people as well. And so it is taken on generationally and we have our ancestors, we have the lineage to thank, because they actually, with their imperfections and the way they were going through what they were going through, it may not have met some of our needs, but they actually helped pave the way for what the work that we're doing, and we'll pave the way for the generations to come. So it's a beautiful process, even if you come through it in a way that like your needs weren't met and it wasn't so pretty, or it wasn't like, yay, So I feel though that those patterns, so even, and we can go on a tangent, but even like genetics and things too, I feel like a lot relates to the patterning. So it's not so much that, it's like someone can touch a door handle and get a cold from the person before them who had a cold, and other people can touch the same door handle and not get the cold. So I know that's completely unrelated, but in my mind, it's related in that you can have siblings, and they've done studies with twins too, who grew up differently or grew up even in the same house, have completely different ways of walking through the world. And so it's very much about the patterns that we're taking on and the ways of thinking and how we think that we need to be in order to go, again, the map going from point A to point B. What I believe is that we're here to actually find our own point A to point B. And how do we do that in the way that is going to bring us the most joy and ease, and to become more of who we're meant to be? And it's not a bashing of our lineage. It's not like, oh, well, they
Right.
did it wrong and I don't want to. And usually it's kind of like grief, where we do go through the different stages of why weren't they, and our anger and our frustration and we needed something different. And then it's the sadness, and it's really a process of coming to the recognition that it's laid out as a gift for us to learn what we need to learn. So our needs in essence are not met, so that we become more of who we are and who we're meant to be in this life. And so the generational patterns go very deep for that reason, so that we can also, I feel, clear them not just for us, but for who's to come after us. So you were saying people I do tend to work with people who are here to actually heal the lineage, free the lineage, and then they, not only are they feeling more free, but it actually helps to change it for if they have children, for their children, or if, just in general, even if they don't have children, just to free that, because it's a huge gift
Mhm.
to be able to do that. And it can be very challenging. So
I could talk to you all stinking day.
I know.
I know. I'm just like, I have so many questions, and I can't believe we're almost out of time, Wendy.
Oh my God, it's going so
I
fast.
know. I know. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, let's do this. Let's do a quick lightning round.
Okay,
And let's see. Okay. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
First answer that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Okay. So what part of yourself are you finally letting the world see?
Not hiding as much.
I love it.
Yeah.
What are you not hiding?
Well, I think your questions were really pertinent, the pain and the struggle
Mhm.
of becoming. It's like a chrysalis, it's like a butterfly of, and I think in our culture we see so much of the shiny object of these people who have, a million followers or these things or that, and we think that it somehow magically happens. And I feel like the hiding is, well, I'm not there yet, or I'm not, I haven't achieved this, or I haven't gotten there, or I'm not doing it, like the generations or the way I'm
Right.
supposed to, or whatever language we each have. And so it's very easy sometimes to just uh, be in the shadows or hide in the background, or, not actually have the courage to just be the weird self that you
Right.
are, to
It's
just
so
like
much fun being
shine up
weird.
the crazy.
It's so much fun being weird, isn't it?
I know.
I
I
know.
know. It's much more fun. It is, that too is a process, because it is really like there is going to be criticism. There's going to be judgment of like, what does she say? What is it? So it is, but I think it is much more freeing to be able
Yes.
to just like, okay, this is who I am. And I may not be your cup of tea, and that's okay.
That's
You know,
okay. I
it's
have
okay.
There's a friend of mine that I tell her, "Your coffee. Not everybody's gonna like coffee. I like coffee.
Yeah.
She
Right.
likes tea. That's okay. Who cares? Let's keep moving."
Right.
Okay. Okay. What story or belief about yourself did you have to unlearn to fully become who you are right now?
That I'm not good enough.
Unlearned. You did it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's so fun. Okay. Oh, I think we covered this, but let's say it anyway. What does
Okay.
it cost you, if anything, to be authentic? And why is it worth it?
Well, I think it costs the process of reminding yourself that you can't do it, or you should hide, or you're not there yet, or you're not ready yet, or blah blah blah. So the cost is sort of that it's going on behind the scenes, but it costs like a lot of draining and energy and feeling trapped and feeling like you're in your own prison. So the cost is quite large.
Yeah.
But what do you gain is the freedom. I mean, freedom, authentic freedom. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
just being you, and like celebrating that. It's like I just see it as like dancing, I like to dance, but it's like when you see something maybe in a movie or you see it somewhere and hopefully in our own lives too, but I mean you can see it and you feel that when you're watching a movie, or you can feel someone with that unbridled joy, or just on a like they don't care.
It's so fun.
It's so fun.
Our little stone cold group of weirdos. Here we
Yeah.
are. Okay. Okay. What boundary have you set that protects your sense of self?
Oh, what a good question. Well, I feel like this is a work in progress still of not abandoning myself in anything. Whether it's when somebody asks me a question and I want to be nice, but I don't really, like it could be like really say, how does this outfit look? Or how does it, and it's like to not abandon my own
Yeah.
feelings, my
Yeah.
own way of being to please another, or to, fit in, or to not, to
Right.
not be like criticized, or the same sort of theme that we're talking about. Yeah.
Got
So
it.
yeah, big
Perfect.
boundary.
Okay. If you could unmute one truth people are too afraid to say, what would it be?
If you could, I don't know if I understand the question. If you can
What's one truth that people don't talk enough about, or one thing that people are like too scared?
oh yeah, sex, money.
Oh,
Yeah. Sex, money, the truth of menopause, or the truth of like being a woman. And I feel like the divine feminine and the divine masculine versus like when you're talking about, the white knuckling, and it's like that's what we're brought up with, of like the earthly feminine, the earthly masculine, just do it. And nothing against Nike. I actually like the expression, just do,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's you know we learn to go against who we are. So in that, self-expression and pleasure, unmute about pleasure. Yeah, unmute that shit.
Unmute about
Unmute.
pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, just and
That's gonna
living
be
from
my
that
question.
place, of living.
Okay, last fast
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Okay. What keeps you grounded when you feel pressure to perform or fit in?
Nature mostly.
Aw.
Yeah,
Do you spend a lot of time outside? What do you do?
I do. I walk barefoot.
Yes.
Yes, I live in the country. I live more in the country, so I can.
Where are you?
I'm in Virginia. Um,
Beautiful. Yes.
yeah. And so I live with a lot of greenery. So yeah, nature for sure. I mean, I do meditate too, or breathing, and really just the things that can be. And I feel like these are the things like I was talking about in the day-to-day life, like breathing, just pausing, taking a pause, having a sip of water, but reminding myself to be present with those things, instead of just like, oh, I got to get water before I have my next call, or oh, I got to get, oh, I got to.
Right.
There's a difference in the way that we're doing it. We can go for a walk and our mind, I've done this many times. I don't even realize what I walked because I was, ruminating about something, or I was trying to figure something out, or I was talking to myself, or, so the way we bring our presence to what we're doing, not that there's anything wrong with that. I have that kind of a walk. I needed it at the moment. And I feel like to get grounded, it helps me to also just kind of remind myself to be in the moment.
Yes.
I also like rebounding. I like jumping on a like a mini
I've
tramp.
never thought about that. What does
Oh,
that do for you?
I love it. So I have a mini one. We have a big one actually, because my kids used to jump on, but that felt too, as a recovering control freak.
You're gonna fly off.
Like the what?
You're gonna fly off. It's time to
Yeah,
do some
like,
flips, Wendy.
it felt too much. I remember doing it as a kid, but, like, I don't know, it was but anyway, I have a little small, it's called
Yeah.
a small trampoline, and I love getting on that when my head feels like fuzzy or I'm stressed or I feel like just full. Like, it's kind of a day that, all my tabs were open and I had like, which is common.
So common. I'm looking at mine right now. Brrr.
I'm
Yeah.
like learning to like actually, again, with being present, having not keeping them all up because my mind and my energy is going out to all of that. So it just helps me to bounce. And it just is very, it's like relaxing. It's like a rocking chair or something, which I
Oh,
love
yeah. Didn't
sitting and rocking would be, awesome too.
Yeah. I had a little trampoline for my daughter, and I'm gonna dig it back out. I
Oh,
was just yeah. Before we got on today, I was like, "I feel like I need to do jumping jacks or run around the house," but it's
yes.
misting out. Right.
It's great. I mean, even like 5 minutes and just you don't even have to like you can do you'll I mean,
Yeah,
you'll
we just
see
bounce
clients
around.
with the little health bounce where you don't even have to lift your feet like that much off the rebounder. You just kind of it's just I find it very relaxing and it just gets me back in like for 5 minutes. And the other thing is I've started to get up every hour and
Yes.
move. So that also helps me ground and it could be, I could stretch or I could dance or I could rebound or I could walk outside or I could like
Something.
I don't have a system of what, oh, I have to do this. It's just whatever I feel like doing, but to make myself get up and and do something.
Yeah. Yeah, I could sit in front of the screen all day. I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
so zoned in.
Yeah, exactly. And love talking and connecting.
Yes.
I could do this all day. I mean, I love
Right,
I
that's
love
why I
it.
guess that's why we do this all
I
day, right? Yes,
I
yes,
know.
yes.
I love it. I love it. And I have to remind myself, but that also is part of being, bringing coming back to the body because the mind is so engaged in the curiosity and the connection and so it's a different way of connecting and it's connecting within my body or within
Yeah.
myself and yeah.
Okay, so if listeners walk away remembering just one thing from our conversation, what do you hope it is?
Love yourself. You're enough. Like just be you.
I feel like
Yeah.
tearing up a little bit, Wendy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, and on a more personal note, what has it meant for you to share your story here on Unmute Yourself today?
Well, I have chills just when you said that, that you cheat. Like, to me, I feel like that's the greatest gift. So it's like, and that's what I feel like when we are doing this, when you're having your show, when you're interviewing people, when you're doing what you love, it helps spread it for others. And it's the same, it's like when we are just sharing authentically and being who we are, weird, what wacky, whatever. It doesn't
Yeah,
even need that
quirky, fun.
label. It doesn't even need that label. Like, who cares, And there's so many labels in our world now. Like, and it's not to minimize because I know in some ways they can help in certain regards for people, but like, if we're just human and we're just being human and being who we are, it frees not just us, it frees other people. And so it means so much to me. If anything like hits for anyone or is meaningful for anyone, it brightens my world because, it celebrates what my journey has been. Well, the dog is exclaiming that
Chewy.
truth of that.
He
It's
believes
true.
that. He
It's
knows.
truth. Yeah. Because and that's the hiding and the thing that we say that we need to do because we're not ready or whatever. We don't in our minds understand that when we're doing just what we're doing here, that is actually that's the medicine. That's it. There's no like magic. There is magic. There's magic everywhere, but there is no like you have to do it a certain way or you have to be a certain way. It's about just being you and then you're not everyone's cup of tea, but whoever is gonna drink with you and clink with you, and it's like that's great because when each person does their form of waking or wowing or getting chills or tearing up, it's like that's it. That's it.
That's it. We may tend to make it more complicated
Yeah.
than what it is, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
And Wendy, how can people connect with you? How can they
Uh,
find you?
yeah, they can find me at the sanctuarycenters.com and it's centers, centres.com, the
The
sanctuary.
fancy spelling.
Yes, it's a fancy. And they can text, call, and at the website they have my phone number. They can email me, and those are the best ways. But if they want to reach me faster, honestly, calling and texting is faster. I'm also on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. So Facebook is Wendy Vigdor-Hess LLC but it's actually the Sanctuary Centers also. So they can just find me with my name or the Sanctuary Centers. Yeah.
All right, Wendy, is there anything coming up that you have or a way that you want people to connect with you?
Well, they can find me on social media at Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. And also, if you want to be on my email list, you can sign up through the sanctuarycenters.com, and it's centers, CENTRES.com is the end part of that. And also, I'm also on Insight Timer. So if people do like to meditate and they want different things,
Oh,
I have started recording some things on Insight Timer.
that's
So
an app?
it's an app. Yeah, it's a wonderful app. Actually, they have lots of free meditations of all different sorts. They have classes. They have so many different things. It's a wonderful, wonderful app. I've been a user of it for many, many years, and people have said, "You have such a pretty voice. You have such a relaxing,
Right.
calm voice." When I do my classes or healings, that I decided to finally start offering some of my healing and meditation there. So yeah, you can sign up for free. You can also get a paid membership, which allows you to get some of the plus
Okay.
information there too. And it's actually very reasonably priced for a year. But even if you don't want to subscribe to anything else, you can get
Okay.
a ton for free on there. So that's also a great way. Yeah. So, and the newsletter, I send a newsletter, but I don't bombard people's emails in this day and age. So, but I do share my writing and classes and
Oh,
things that,
cool. And
yeah.
do you have any classes coming up?
I do. I have the one coming up for this month. It's on the 27th. It's a Monday, the 27th of April, and it's working with the mother and the lineage. So it's working with our connection to Earth Mother, to our lineage and the ancestral lineage, and to
Cool.
birth mother. And your mother, you don't have to have a good relationship with your mother. Your mother doesn't need to be alive still. Your mother, like it
Yeah,
can be any kind of thing. So yeah,
I
so
love it.
and the classes are energetic in nature. So we work with clearing, and people can, if they can't come live, they can get the recording, and they're usually about half hour or so. So it's very
Okay,
cool. Yeah.
great. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciated this conversation. This is a great way to start the day. I was feeling a little like, focus, Jennifer, focus. You can do this today. And then I'm like, oh, but I get to talk to Wendy. So thank you so much. And y'all, if this episode resonated, share, subscribe, and stay with us as we explore what it really means to live and lead without muting who you are.
That's
And
right.
that's right.
Yay. That's
Coffee.
great.
And until next time, unmute yourself and be who you already are.
Love it. Thank you. Hi.